our other story in the newsletter this week about diseased and damaged dinosaurs, or if you like, our headline that we actually used in the newsletter, Limping, Lumping Sauruses. Yes, dinosaurs did suffer quite a bit from the degeneration of the world, and so we've got three examples here. One was a dinosaur that was limping. Now, they didn't actually find the dinosaur itself. What they found here were some trackways, and they carefully looked at these trackways, and they took some laser scans of them, which is why you've got these very highly coloured sort of pictures of the trackways here. And they also followed this trackway, and they found that it had rather wide steps with a set of equally deformed left footprints, so they could distinguish left, right, left, right. So they had a series of footprints, and the left ones seemed to have this distinct deformity. And they decided that that was due to one of the digits, one of the toes, being dislocated. And so this is their interpretation, that this particular dinosaur had a left foot that was deformed and a right foot that looked like a normal dinosaur foot. And so their conclusion was that this trackway was made by a theropod dinosaur, that's a two-legged dinosaur, 6 to 7 meters long. They can work that out from the distance between the footprints. Walking about 4 kilometers an hour, but it had a distinct limp caused by a deformed foot. So we have a limping dinosaur. Now, we also have a triceratops that had got itself into a bit of trouble. Some other scientists looked at a particular triceratops. Now, these are dinosaurs that have a big bony frill around their neck. And don't you love the name of this dinosaur, Triceratops horridus? And appropriately, it was found in a place called Hell Creek. So, horrible Triceratops from Hell Creek, and it had a hole in its bony frill. And they looked at this hole very closely, and with various microscopic techniques that we have, with wonderful technology for analyzing fossils these days, and we're learning more, getting more and more evidence for the biblical history of the world. And they found that there were signs of inflammation and of regrowth or healing in this bone. You can actually tell that just from the way the bone is organized, even in a fossil bone. And so this indicated that this hole was caused by some sort of trauma while the dinosaur was still alive, and it had started to heal. And so they decided that this was the result of a traumatic event, which might have indeed occurred during combat with another triceratops. And then finally, we have a dinosaur with a sore throat. Now, I'm sure you've all experienced having a sore throat, but imagine if you had a throat that was this long. Wouldn't that be incredibly sore? And this was a study of some long-necked sauropod bones. So these very, very long-necked dinosaurs, the classic Brontosaurus type dinosaur. And it was dated as being late Jurassic. So that's about 150 million years ago, according to the evolutionary timetable. And they looked at its neck bones, and they found, again, we can look at fossil bones with good microscopic techniques and biochemical techniques and find out all sorts of fascinating things about them now. And they found some unusual bony protrusions in the regions of these bones that could have been penetrated by air sacs. This is bones, dinosaur bones sometimes have these hollow spaces in them, which may have been air sacs. We're still not sure. But anyway, they certainly did have these unusual sort of bony protrusions or bony growths in them. And they decided that this looked like bones that had been affected by a fungal infection, which does occur today. It's called aspergillosis. which is a type of fungus. Now, it gets into the body originally by a respiratory infection, so by a nose, throat, and lung infection. But after that, it can spread to other parts of the body, and it will give whatever animal has been infected by this particular fungus. It happens in birds and reptiles today, and they end up with a sort of flu or pneumonia-like disease, and it can go on and on and on for a long time and cause weight loss with a cough and a fever and difficulty breathing. So it's not very nice. It's pretty nasty. But remember, they said this dinosaur lived 150 million years ago. Well, all of these dinosaurs supposedly lived tens of millions of years ago or hundreds of millions of years ago. But really, when did they actually live, given that the real history of the world is from the Creator, is that it started off perfect, everything was very good, and then something happened that caused the world to go downhill. Because this is an important point for those who want to believe that the fossil record, including all of those diseased and damaged dinosaurs, that the fossil record is somehow the history of life on Earth over millions of years before human beings came along. But disease and trauma and and deformity are not good. But the world started out very good, and it's going downhill. There's been serious change in the world, but it's not evolution. But if you want to believe that God created the world by evolution, you've got to take into account all of this evidence of fossil disease. We don't just see fossil design, we see fossil disease. And all of those things only came into the world after sin came into the world, which means mankind was already here. So those who want to put together evolution and the Bible, it's a fool's errand. It's not going to work because you've got two histories of the world that are completely incompatible. And a few years ago, a man named Dennis Alexander wrote a book called Creation or Evolution. Do we have to choose? And that was his theory. Yes, we do have to choose. And if you claim to be a Bible-believing Christian, you should be choosing the Bible. And it is the opposite of evolution. And in fact, it's an insult to the Creator to say that God created all of these amazing things with disease already in them. The disease came after man sinned, after the world was cursed, and things are changing, but they're going downhill.